First to the US, Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, has appeared in a federal court in Washington, formally charged with money laundering and conspiracy against the US. The indictment against Mr Manafort and his former deputy are the first formal charges to result from the investigation into allegations of collusion by the Trump campaign and Russia by the FBI and Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Donald Trump says the charges relate to activities long before he became president, proving in his view there was no collusion, and there was a tweet about that, of course. But a third campaign official, George Papadopoulos, has also been charged, and his evidence could paint a very different story. Anne Barker reports.
The indictment against Paul Manafort and Rick Gates, filed in the US District Court, runs to 31 pages. It details the lavish lifestyle Paul Manafort has apparently led going back decades, all allegedly funded by tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in hidden overseas wealth, as well as a string of multi-million-dollar properties in New York and Virginia. Prosecutors say he'd spent $820,000 on landscaping alone for one home. $12 million was spent at 19 separate vendors in New York and Beverly Hills, including $1 million on 8 rugs, tens of thousands of dollars at a New York tailor, and $8,500 on a single cashmere and silk sports coat. The indictment, filed by the Special Counsel Robert Mueller, makes no mention of any wrongdoing during Donald Trump's election campaign, but it alleges that Mr Manafort's work as a lobbyist in Ukraine amounted to a scheme to hide money from US tax collectors and the public.
Manafort used his hidden overseas wealth to enjoy a lavish lifestyle in the United States without paying taxes on that income.
It reads,
as part of the scheme, Manafort and Gates repeatedly provided false information to financial bookkeepers, tax accountants and legal counsel, among others.
Paul Manafort has been indicted for conspiracy against the US, failing to register as a foreign agent and laundering more than $18 million. Rick Gates is accused of transferring more than $3 million from offshore accounts. Both men have appeared at a federal courthouse in Washington, where they've pleaded not guilty to all charges. Mr Manafort's lawyer, Kevin Downing, addressed reporters outside.
Well, I think you all saw today that President Donald Trump was correct. There is no evidence that Mr Manafort or the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government. Mr Manafort represented pro-European Union campaigns for the Ukrainian. And in that, he was seeking to further democracy and to help the Ukraine come closer to the United States and the EU. Those activities ended in 2014, over 2 years before Mr. Manafort served in the Trump campaign.
Donald Trump has taken to Twitter to dismiss claims his election campaign team colluded with Russia, tweeting, "Sorry, but this is years ago, before Paul Manafort was part of the Trump campaign." The President and White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders say the real collusion was by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats for using the Russians to compile a dossier of fake allegations against Donald Trump.
The real collusion scandal, as we've said several times before, has everything to do with the Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, and Russia. There's clear evidence of the Clinton campaign colluding with Russian intelligence to spread disinformation and smear the president to influence the election. We've been saying from day one there's been no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and nothing in the indictment today changes that at all.
All that, though, conveniently ignores the fact that a third Trump aide has also been charged and pleaded guilty to making false statements about his contacts with the Russians during the presidential campaign. George Papadopoulos mightn't be a household name in the US, but he was on the election team during Donald Trump's campaign, and he's now admitted he tried to broker a meeting with Russian officials offering dirt on Hillary Clinton. It remains to be seen what evidence Mr Papadopoulos may now give to the FBI and the Mueller investigation that might substantiate the allegations of collusion. Greg Miller, a national security reporter at the Washington Post, says Paul Manafort too may be willing to trade information with prosecutors to avoid a lengthy jail term if he's convicted.
These charges could put Manafort in jail for the rest of his life if he were convicted. But even beyond that, there are forfeiture provisions in these charges that would attempt to make Manafort cough up these millions and millions of dollars in property that he's acquired with all of these gains over the years. This could be hugely costly for Paul Manafort. He has a great deal of incentive to cooperate. The question in Washington is, what information does he have to trade?
Robert Mueller's office has revealed that George Papadopoulos is now assisting the collusion investigation as a proactive cooperator.
Anne Barker reporting.